Hi again, everyone. My name is Nick Pierce. Glad to have you along here for another Liberty Flames baseball podcast, video podcast, as we continue to catch up with some former players from the program. And today we're going to look back at a very special game in program history, and one that I believe kind of started to send this program on the ascent, on the rise, if you will, and started it in the right direction as far as being one of the big mid-major programs in the country. And to talk more about that, we're going to visit with a couple of young men that played in that ball game. P.K. Keller, former Flames outfielder; Dustin Umberger, former Flames pitcher. The night was 2008. The year was 2008, and it was Liberty against Coastal Carolina, and the first night game ever played at Old Worthington Stadium. So we've got some pictures to go along with that we'll be showing you here momentarily. But first, guys, PK, we'll start with you. You're living in Florida now and running your own business down there. How's everything going?
Things are going just like they always are, it seems. Things haven't changed a whole lot, except with all the different policies we got to keep up with on the daily as things change daily, sometimes hourly. But, life's good. I'm in sunny Florida, and weather's great. Maybe not great right now, but, looking forward to the weekend.
Yeah, COVID-19 certainly been a challenge for everyone to deal with up to this point. You talk about policy changes and things like that. But tell us a little bit about your business and what you're doing now.
So I specialized in HVAC cleaning projects, industrial cleaning projects, and just a lot of different types of contracting, oddball things that nobody else really wants to get into. So fit a unique space, a little bit of healthcare, a little bit of janitorial, all mixed into one, it seems.
And you've got a wife and family now as well. How many kids now?
I do. I got 2 kids. I got 2 little ones, 2 and 5. I got a boy and a girl. And, basically I got all kinds of energy.
Well, I'm sure the next guy can attest to that as well. Dustin Umberger, former Flames pitcher, joining us here. And Dustin, thanks a lot for your time. I understand you're living in Texas now and doing some sales down there.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, Nick. Working IT sales for a private company called Tech Systems here in Dallas-Fort Worth.
And you've got a wife and 3 kids with another on the way. Is that right?
Yes, sir. Yep. I got a 5-year-old girl, 3.5-year-old son, 20-month-old girl, and a boy on the way. So I will be 2 and 2 here very shortly. Wow, you guys are not only outnumbered now, you're doubled up. Yeah, we've been playing zone defense for almost 2 years now. So.
Well, it's great to have you guys with us here. Appreciate it. I'm sure that everyone's going to love this trip down memory lane. The only thing I wished I had was video of this ball game, but we don't have that. We do have some pictures, some stills we're going to look back to, but want to go back to it here. And this 2008 season really, even as a whole, when you look at this ball club, wound up finishing 35-26-1 and wound up going to the Big South Championship game that year against Coastal Carolina. Lost that one in Danville, Virginia. But this was a very good ball club. And, PK, this was your senior year. This game specifically we're talking about today, March 28th, 2008, Old Worthington Stadium, which is obviously no more now. The current softball stadium was built on top of the old site when the new baseball stadium was built here. But, PK, your senior year coming into this game, certainly it was a big-time atmosphere going against a rival in Coastal Carolina, was it not?
Oh, it was. You couldn't have painted a better picture. It was phenomenal, the way that the old stadium was set up, where we could look out from the dugout and really only had one side to see all the fans sitting down. So before the start of the game, we already had quite amount of people that had shown up, and people continued to trickle in over the first inning. So we really didn't have a gauge as to how many people were there till about the second, third inning, and it was pretty awesome to see how many people actually could fit in that area.
To give everyone an idea, if you've not been or if you never did go to Old Worthington Stadium, the seating capacity was listed at 1,000, and a lot of that was just some chair-back bleachers that were situated on a few concrete slabs down the first base line behind the dugout. There was some grass seating behind the backstop in front of the old press box that was there, if you can call it a press box, where folks would bring the blankets out and sit there on the berm, if you will. But for the most part, this was nothing, obviously, like what we have here today behind me. But this is, Old Worthington Stadium was a very intimate atmosphere. And to jam, it was 3,183 people in there. There was certainly never an atmosphere like that in that stadium's history. Never was again, I don't think either. But, Dustin, I turn to you now. We were talking about this right before we came on. This was one of the things that you really remembered about this ball game, not just coming in playing number 18 Coastal Carolina, a team that this team had been rivals with for a number of years and would continue to be, but just the overall atmosphere. And it just really felt like a big college baseball game, didn't it?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I would say in my career, right, there's a few moments that I could really put up against this night. The first game under the lights, there was a lot of hype. I'm sure it was planned, obviously, to have that game be against Coastal and all of the Beat Coastal slogans, right? But, yeah, it was amazing. I mean, looking out and seeing the support from everybody, obviously under the night, under the lights and being a game at night gives you a little different feel. But, yeah, it was just incredible to see the support and the cheers, and obviously wish the result would have been a little different, but nonetheless, just an amazing night.
Yeah, Coastal did go on to win that game 5-3 in extra innings, but we'll get to that in just a little bit. But kind of setting the stage here coming into this one, just remember it was almost like a carnival atmosphere. And I got to call the game that night. I was fortunate enough on radio. And I remember, like I said, we didn't have a very large press box yet. We had a small press box that Ryan Baumberger was in, our statistician, our media relations coordinator. He's still here, by the way, for those that don't know. But a very small area for him and his couple student workers to work in and print box scores. But radio, we were outside of that box. We were situated next door to it with a tent covering. Fortunately, though, it was a beautiful night. We didn't have to worry about any kind of weather. I don't remember what the temperature was, but I don't remember it being cold at all, which was very nice for March 28th, because sometimes that's not always the case in Virginia at that time of year. But I remember being out there, and even before the ball game, an hour, 2 hours before the ball game started, just seeing everyone out there tailgating, seeing all the folks gathered. I mean, grills were assembled out there on that old perimeter road, and everyone was – it just felt like a big-time event coming in. And then the Chancellor, President Jerry Falwell Jr. was there also, and was able to throw out the ceremonial first pitch. What do you guys remember about just batting practice that night and pregame warm-ups and just being out there on the field?
It was different. The sun was setting, something we had never really experienced before, and there were just a lot more bodies walking around. There just seemed to be more activity. Guys had an extra pep in their step. We're a little more focused getting ready to play someone like Coastal because they came in ranked. I remember it just being a lot of adrenaline. The moment, it turned out to what we all wanted it to be, that amazing college atmosphere where, the fans are into it, your buddies are at the game. Even right at that first pitch, I remember being out in the outfield and there's a bunch of my buddies there that could just talk to me because, I'm out in right field and they're thinking they're going to have a conversation with me, and they had never sat out there before because they couldn't get a seat in stands.
Yeah, I remember that. The crowd really extended all the way down that berm, down the right field line, and you were getting some chatter out there that you weren't used to. Dustin, I mentioned this was PK's senior year. This was your junior year. You didn't start this game. David Stokes would get the start on the mound. He had an exceptional season that year, wound up getting drafted by the Tigers in the 25th round, I believe it was. But you came in a little bit late in the ball game. Just tell me about your preparation coming into this and how you were approaching it, not getting the start, but knowing you could be called on.
Yeah, from my junior year, it was a little bit of a different year. It would be, Friday, Saturday, be used out of the pen, middle relief or late in the game if needed, and if not, kind of start on Sundays if I wasn't used. So a little bit different than freshman and sophomore year, but, going into the night game, right, against Coastal, I was always hoping that my name would get called at some point. And, I certainly don't remember all the details, but to echo PK, right, I mean, going into that game was certainly hoping that I would get a chance to pitch against Coastal. Obviously, I always loved pitching against Coastal and facing good hitters and just a good team in them year in and year out. But, the other part that I think was just so much fun is playing baseball under the lights and on grass. It felt like the way you're supposed to play the game, right? It kind of felt like, Field of Dreams, if you will, watching that movie. But it was just again, so much fun. And I remember, a couple innings, obviously, that I pitched. Remember a few bad moments there as well during the game. But nonetheless, it'd be tough to beat.
Yeah, I can totally relate to what you're saying there, because I think I even said that. It's one of the few things I can remember saying specifically on the air that night was, this just feels like the way it's supposed to be. And actually, the funny thing is, I got a text message right after that from one of my buddies that said, well, baseball started, before there was lights or anything like that, kind of ridiculing me a little bit. But you're right. I mean, when you think of baseball nowadays and the era that we live in, you just think about it being played at night. I mean, that's where all the World Series games are played usually. That's where the playoff games are. They're under the lights. They're on the big stage. And it certainly had that feeling coming in. I want to get into the ball game itself now, and this was kind of a cool moment in the bottom of the first inning. No score, and PK, you're coming up right after Errol Hollinger had doubled down the right field line. So you got a man on second, one man out, and you're facing Coastal starter Bobby Gagg. You remember Bobby Gagg?
Oh, yeah, I remember Bobby Gagg. Yeah, he had some good stuff, and he was a bulldog for him.
What do you remember about that at bat? Because I've heard some stories, and I want to see if they're true or not. You were getting ready to go up to bat, and word is Jim Toman told you to hit a home run. Is that true or is that false?
No, that's true. In fact, he wasn't the only one. I had a few other guys, too, as I was on deck and, just kind of made my way back to go, grab some more pine tar because I couldn't find the pine tar rag out there. And a few other guys go, just let it fly. Just let it fly. Stick that ball over the fence. And I remember walking up. I mean, I think that's really when we first started walk-up music and things like that as well. So really had some adrenaline going. And, I'll never forget. I think I saw him. I couldn't even tell you what the count was. All I know is that I've always seen off speed early in the count from them, and that's what I was looking for. I was looking for a slider away. That's exactly what I saw. After that, I let it fly, and it went right where I expected it was going to go, right to the opposite field, get a little awful bomb in there, and get the crowd all excited.
And it always helped, too, hitting opposite field at Old Worthington Stadium, too. It seems like if that wind was blowing, it was usually blowing out to right. I don't remember if it was blowing out that night or not, not trying to take anything away from your home run. But I do remember if you could get it up in that jet stream, then you were usually in pretty good shape. I also remember when you hit that ball, it hit the light tower in right field. Do you remember that?
Yeah, I do remember that. I don't remember if there's like a transformer box or something over there, but I remember looking up, watching that thing ricochet off the pole, and I go, well, I'll be darned, that's pretty sweet. First night game right off the light pole. Heck yeah, so I had a big old grin coming around third base there. But yeah, as far as that jet stream goes, and it's exactly how you described it. You get the ball up there, and you never even had to get all of it. It would just naturally just shoot out there. I know Chach hated that area. That wasn't always friendly to him. I know, especially with me in the fall.
Yeah, for those that don't know or don't remember, Dustin Umberger goes by Chach, so that's how we will refer to him for the rest of this interview. Actually, PK, you sent me his number yesterday because I lost it, and you had a nickname for him in your phone. Do you remember that?
Sure do. Midget. That's how it needed to come up. And Josh has got all kinds of unique names for me too. So I don't want to
can we listen to them here?
Another time.
Oh, good stuff. Yeah, Chach. I mean, what was that dugout like after that home run? I mean, you guys go up 2-0 there. It's 3-0 after two. I mean, what's the feeling down there?
Well, it felt good. Obviously getting an early lead on a good team like Coastal is always important. But if I could just add to it, I think Coach Toman telling PK to hit a home run, this might have been the only time in PK's career under Toman that he actually listened to him. I think, every other at-bat, PK went up there and Coach Toman said, hey, just hit it over the fence. I remember one time actually against JMU, it was like the bottom of the ninth. PK was coming up against JMU during a midweek game, and Toman said, hey, I think Errol was on first, actually. Down by one, and Coach Toman said, hey, hit it over the fence and just win it, right? And PK hit it, and it hit like maybe a foot off the top of the fence, and Errol got thrown out at home to end the game. So it wasn't a good one. But, yeah, this was one of the only times PK actually listened. But the dugout was great. I mean, you get an early lead on a team like Coastal. You have the adrenaline going anyway, first night game, all the fans in the stands. You get out to an early lead, 3-0. And, it felt really good, right? Everybody felt like, hey, we have this one, right? And you're going to be in for a game when you play Coastal, right? But everybody was feeling really good. I remember that.
Yeah, almost hate to even bring up what happened next. A run in the Coastal would come back. They got a run in the fourth, a run in the fifth, one in the sixth. They wound up tying the game. And, Dustin, then you came on to pitch there in the seventh inning for David Stokes. Stokes had a quality start, but left with the game tied. You're coming in a tie ball game late in that kind of atmosphere. No one's left the ballpark. I mean, how much is the adrenaline going right there?
It's as a reliever, you couldn't ask for more, right? Maybe bases loaded, bottom of the ninth, 2 outs, right? Something like that. But this was as good as it got for me. I mean, you come in there, your adrenaline's pumping, and like PK said, we had the music going right during pitching changes or in between innings, and you come out there and it was probably
what was the song that you came out to? Do you remember?
You know what? I believe it was Fleetwood Mac, but I'm not 100%. I went through a couple of different songs, but I believe it was a song by Fleetwood Mac, but a little bit more of a softer song at that time. Not like the Hell's Bells or Enter Sandman, anything like that.
So you come into the ball game and it's big time. I wish we would have had radar guns back then. We didn't have the nice radar gun like we do now, because I would have liked to have seen what you were throwing that night. Did anyone tell you? Do you remember?
I couldn't tell you. I really couldn't.
You were up to about 93, 94 out of the pen a lot of times.
I could, sure. If you tell me it was 93, 94, I'm not going to tell you it was softer than that by any means. No pitcher ever would. But I could probably get it up there to definitely in the 91, 92, something like that. If it was 93, 94, hey, you want to give me a couple of extra miles per hour there, I'll take it. But
like I said, we didn't have a gun that night. We weren't tracking it, so we'll go 93, 94. Right?
Absolutely, I'll take it. I'm not going to argue with you. But yeah, it felt good. Right? You have the adrenaline going. I'm sure I was throwing, as good as or as hard as I probably could that night.
Let's fast forward here a little bit to in the ball game, go into the ninth inning now, and you're in some trouble. Dave Sapelt led off the inning with a single to right field. By the way, he went on to play in the big leagues. Talk about the quality of players that were in this ball game. Dave Sapelt, Adam Rice followed that up with a walk. Then Doc Doyle. I mean, these are some names that folks really remember. Tyler Bortnick was also on that club. Now it gets to you've got let's see, a couple guys on base here. Joe Feely at one point threw a guy out at home. I was trying to remember if that was the ninth inning or if that was earlier. Do you remember that, Chach?
I don't remember. I don't think it was the ninth, but I don't remember what inning it was. I do remember him throwing a guy out plate, but not sure of the inning. I want to say that might have been the seventh or eighth.
But anyway, it comes to the ninth inning, and you've got two guys on with 2 out, and you're facing Tommy Baldridge, a guy that go on to get drafted by the Yankees that year. What do you remember about that at that point?
Tommy Baldridge, that's one of my biggest memories there. he was always, with as good of a lineup that Coastal had, Tommy Baldridge, in my opinion, was probably their best hitter. And that kid, he took massive hacks. He had a great eye, barreled the ball up all the time. I want to say it was bases loaded. I don't know what the count was. I think there were 2 strikes on him, but I remember getting Tommy to strike out looking on a backdoor slider that was probably, I don't know, I want to say it was probably 8 inches off the plate, but somehow got the call. And I just remember the entire hill, with all the students and the fans just going nuts. But just getting out of that inning and just taking a deep breath of being pumped at the same time, but just a huge sigh of relief because Tommy's somebody that I felt like always hit pretty well off me.
I went back and looked at it. Was the ninth that Feely threw. He threw out Adam Rice at home. There was a base hit before that. That was before the Baldridge strikeout, obviously. So Joe Feely, we lost Joe, unfortunately, not long ago. But you guys maybe just kind of stop there and kind of take a moment to remember Joe and just what he meant to you guys.
Yeah, absolutely. Joe was just an amazing kid, amazing teammate. Some of my best memories. Joe was the type of guy that you could, you have the camaraderie with your teammates and coaches, right? And where PK and I, and obviously we have a relationship where we pick on each other, and that's like a lot of teams, right? Joe was that kind of guy too, where Joe was a year younger than me. And I'd give Joe a hard time, but Joe was the type of guy that would give it right back to you. I remember a few different occasions being down at Charleston Southern during BP, and I was going at Joe a little bit about trying to hit a couple of BP bombs. And he went out there and, I think he hit 1 or 2 over and just the second he comes running right back into the outfield, just gave me a hard time about it because I didn't think he could do it. But Joe is just a great guy, great teammate, always willing to help you. He's somebody that we'll miss.
PK, anything to add to that?
Yeah, he, from the time he came in, I mean, the teammate he was, is you knew he always had your back. You never knew where his loyalties were because there was always on par right where they needed to be. You didn't have to worry about the effort he was going to put forth. It was always 110%. He literally would run through a brick wall for you. Whatever was asked of him is what he did. And I can tell you this, I remember that boy could run. Boy, could he run. He's definitely missed, and he definitely gave us a lot of really good memories.
Yeah, and had a really good year that year. Hit 275. Just looking up the numbers here, it's 16 RBIs. Played in 45 games that year, so had a big play there in left field as well in the 9th inning to help Josh out, and then Josh helped himself out getting out of the inning with that big strikeout. Obviously, it goes on 5-3. Coastal would win it in 12. It was a late inning, late night in the 12th inning. Coastal was able to get a 2-out hit to drive in a couple runs. Tommy Baldridge, bases loaded in the 11th, able to drive in a couple there. But overall, just an incredible night, incredible experience. And actually, you guys went on to win the game the next day and set up the rubber match on Sunday. So I guess some of that momentum had carried over to the next day, right?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Anytime you have a game like that, right, it's disappointing when you don't come out on top, but again, just that entire weekend, let alone the first game under the lights, right? That entire weekend was special. If I remember correctly, I think the next morning was a little bit wet and rainy, or maybe it was a Sunday game. But yeah, I mean, we lost a lot of games to Coastal over the years, right? But anytime you played them tough and got a chance to come out on top against them, right, it always got good. So yeah, the momentum definitely carried over a little bit.
When was the last time you guys saw each other before this?
You were down here in Dallas. What? It hasn't been that long. I would say
6-7 months ago.
Yeah, probably. I was going to say October, November.
Yeah, I think it was October. Yeah, I had a conference in Dallas, and Josh had a free night from watching the babies. So it was nice to hang out with him and just see how he enjoys his time out there. Good opportunity for us to catch up.
Here's one of them, Nick.
Hey.
This is Charlie Rose, so she just came in from playing outside. You want to say hi?
Hey, Charlie.
Hi.
Hi. How are you?
That's awesome. And so, lastly, here in closing, because Chach, I can see you got your hands full, but in closing, you guys certainly have a lot of great memories of Liberty baseball. Liberty baseball's got a lot of great memories of you guys as well. I mean, what are some of the blessings, the fond memories you guys take away from the program and your playing days? Whoever wants to start.
I'll go. Just the relationships, right? Being brought in by Coach Royer, Coach Tomlin, and then having Coach Toman, Coach Jackson, Coach Schnabel. Love to see the fact that Coach Jackson's back as the head coach. I felt like even though he was only there a year, right, I learned so much from him during my junior year, and having him, lead the pitching staff at that time. So glad to see him back, but all the guys too. That's the other thing. It's just the relationships that you build with your teammates in college. It's unlike anything else. I had the chance to play a little bit in the minors right afterwards. Took a little bit of a different path to get there, but even then, right, never had the relationships that I did with the guys at Liberty. I still talk to PK. More than I probably want to, right? Because he's always trying to send me a text or something. Most of the time I hit ignore or delete and don't ever respond to him, but I'm just kidding. Yeah, I don't ever do that. But just the relationship. That's the thing that the guys you play with, right? And everybody that goes, just goes into your experience. It's unforgettable.
Yeah, I got to second that. The relationships was everything. The atmosphere, the places we got to go, the colleges that we got to play at, to see the U.S. while we were in school from a different perspective. And you're playing a game while you're going to college. It's tough to have anything be any better than that. For the time I was there, the 4 years I was able to play, there wasn't anything more special than that senior year. My heart goes out to the guys, and I see that things have worked themselves out for the guys for next year, for them to really do what they feel is best for them in their lives. So they got a choice. It was nice to see that. But the relationships that I had while I was there, I still talk to quite a few guys. Chops doesn't like to respond to any of my text messages anymore, but I figured that. But no, it's good. Again, they're your brothers, and your brothers for life.
Great stuff, guys. Appreciate the time. It's been fun taking a little stroll down memory lane here. Hopefully you'll enjoy some of the pictures with this as well. And, stay well, guys, and take care of your families. And certainly an odd time, but certainly appreciate you guys taking some time here for us.